today. You got me, Paul Minichino, here on the Tuesday call. And we got Dustin Craig with us today, which I'm really excited about because honestly, man, I've been looking back through your numbers and the consistency of what you're doing, the consistency of the appointments you're running is impressive. And, it's cool to have another, we've known each other for a while, but we haven't worked together for a while, like we haven't really like worked together. And it's cool to work with you, man, and see what you and your wife are doing and your team, man. I'm excited to see what you guys got going on and excited to hear from you. What can you tell me a little bit about what's been going on in your world, man? What's I know the call's on final expense, but what's been going on in your world, man? What's been happening over there in Texas?
Yes. So as far as like, you know, outside of work stuff, is that more the question is like outside of work, what's been
Sure,
going on?
sure.
Yeah. So I'm Dustin Craig and my wife is Courtney Craig. And so we have two, you know, very, we have two kids, two boys, one's 4 and one will be 3 next month. And then we're expecting to have our girl in October this year. So we're about to have a girl. And just so yeah, just been so grateful to be with this team and this, we love all the support that we're getting from our group here that we have, you guys. And you know this is the beginning. We're so grateful. So just been working, man, trying to take care of the kids. My wife Courtney takes care of the kids while I'm working more. School's out, so we can't. August is coming around. School will be back in session, and things will get even better. Once school's back in. So
Yeah, once there's a
hopefully,
little more structure for the kids, right? I think when you have kids, you like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about." When you don't have kids, you're like, "What are you talking about?" But it's like when they got that structure where they go somewhere and they do something and then they come back, it's good for them and it's good for you, right? Like it's good for everybody involved. And dude, I was clicking back through the new business reports and I noticed since the new business report has been operational, you've submitted business every single week, which is really cool to see, man. And I think I think that it would be really cool for us to maybe we set some kind of like let's see who can submit business every week. Like let's see who like when we look back over the next 52 weeks, who is it that has submitted business? I heard the longest streak that I've heard of was over 3 years of somebody submitting business every single week, which I think that's a long time, right? I heard that on a call a bunch of years ago, and I was like, I like that. I'm going to try to at least get one app a weekend, at least one app a week. So today's call, we're going to talk about Dustin is final expense and kind of like what to do when you get to the home and the in-home process, right? And for someone, I think, what were your numbers? You texted me. What were your numbers last week as far as going out and running appointments?
yeah. So my numbers last week, I had done 662 calls, 62 dials last week. I had booked 20 appointments, and I sat with 10 people. I sold 6 of those 10. I wrote 8 applications for $4,149 of annual premium, um, and they're all off of leads. So there was one referral in there from a lead. So that was all in one. That was last week.
That's cool, man. And that's like you got to be a respecter of work ethic, right? And I feel like no matter what, no matter how good or how bad you are at this business, like dude, you made a bunch of dials, like and I mean a rack full, 600 plus dials to get your 20 appointments. Is that your goal? Is like 20 appointments kind of like a minimum for you or what are you thinking when you're booking your appointments each week?
Yes, yeah, I've increased my goals since I've been around this community, this team now. It was 15 appointments when I first got here, and since July 4th week, I'm more capable of doing 20 to 30 appointments a week, and so 20 is my minimum now. That's my minimum.
I love
Um,
that.
Got to hit at least 20 to 25 appointments. So
Well, and
that's my
that's it, man. And honestly, if you run 20 appointments week in and week out, and we look at a year period, a 52-week period, even with a few weeks off, 20 appointments a week, that's a six-figure plus income selling insurance. Really depending on where you are, it's, you know, six figure to multiple six figures, you know, and especially as you get the premiums up and you start writing bigger cases and referrals, it just gets more and more profitable. And so that's awesome, dude. I love when people just put numbers up, right? Because you could have quit at 300 dials and you might have only had 10 appointments and maybe wrote half the premium, right? But when you just say, hey, it doesn't matter how many phone calls it takes, I'm going to make 20 appointments this week, and you do it, you can look back and whatever the numbers are after that, the numbers are, right? Like you can't be mad at you can't be like, well, you know, everybody bought, it was a great week, or oh, nobody bought. Like, who cares about that part? You did the part that you can control, which is your attitude and activity. So let me ask you this, man. Like, when you pull up to the house, do you have like something that you're saying, like, because I know like we all have crap in our life, right? Like, if you don't have anything wrong in your life, you probably ain't breathing. Or like it's like you might not have anything wrong right now, right? But there's something that's going to come up. There's something that already came up, or you know, like you're just coming out of something, right? And so like when you're going up to a house, do you have any like mantra or anything that you say where you're like, hey, like, is there anything you do to get ready when you're pulling up to an appointment?
Yes, yeah, that's one of the biggest things is making sure I'm thinking the right things before I go right into a home of somebody that I haven't met yet, except for on the phone. You know, that's the biggest thing. And so I've always said something. I've learned it from the different leaders. But what's been working for me and what I've been saying lately is, one of the other leaders in the, he also says it, and I'm sure there's more people that say it too, but I read it from a book as well, Eat That Frog with Brian Tracy.
Uh-huh.
And I repeat to myself, I say it out loud at least 3 or 4 times, but I say, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself, and it's as funny as it sounds. It's not you know, the way it was explained to me is that it's not about me. It's more about like when you like yourself, other people like you as well. Like other people, you like other people as well. When you like yourself, you like other people as well. And people like people who like people. And so that's my mindset. I say that, and you know, I want them to people buy from people they like, know, and that they trust, you know. And so,
You've turned
and I'll just,
sideways, man. You've turned sideways. I don't know what happened. I think
oh, I gotta,
someone sent you a message and flipped your phone or something.
yeah, I
Uh,
did get a phone call just now.
there it
Just,
went. There it went. You're good. You're good.
that's all right.
Your phone holder.
Let me get
Um,
that. So, guys, I'm out running a business right now.
that's
Um,
funny. I love that. I love that. I love that when you say like I like myself. I like myself. Like you can't help but smile as you say it. You know, like I like myself, right? And who do you? As if you can convince yourself that you like yourself, that's like step one, right? And then you can convince other people to like you too, right? Uh,
yes.
that's really cool. So do you do anything like, so you're going up to the house? I like myself. I like myself. You know, I've heard things like, you know, saying things like, you know, Bob and Mary can't wait. Like you have your clients' names in front of you. Like, I don't know if you do that, but I've heard things like Bob and Mary can't wait to talk to me. Like Bob and Mary are sitting by the checkbook. Like, you know, whatever. It's having something positive to say that you can say when you go into a home. I like myself. I think that works in any situation, you know, like you go home and see
Yes.
the wife and kids and you go, I like myself. I like myself. It's going to be better, right? It's going to be a good
Yes.
atmosphere.
That's right. And I said, I'll say a small prayer or something. I'll just say, hey, just give me the words to say that they need to hear. And, I just say a small prayer like that. But, yeah, I like to picture myself from a bird's eye view of walking inside there and walking outside with an application in my hand. I like to picture myself like that before I even go in there. But yeah, I say that to myself in the car, um, out loud, a few times. And then, do you want me to kind of get into when I get to the appointment?
Yeah. What do you do when you get there? Let's talk about it, man. What do? You pull up and drink some coffee in the driveway, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I like to have everything put together before I get to the house. I might even do a drive by, just kind of drive past it, make sure I know where the house is. So whenever I pull up, I'm not looking around like I don't know where I am. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I like to pull up on the right side of the street. I don't like to pull across the street. I like to pull on the right side of the street in front of their house. So I pull up. Um, you know, I'm I get out I get out like I have other appointments to go to. I don't want to be trying to find where my pin is, and I don't want to be trying to find where my lead is. I just turn the car off and I jump out. I already have stuff put together. It's intentional. I don't just show up. So it's intentional. I get out of the car and I walk straight up to the door. I don't park in the driveway. I just park in the street, in front of the house. And I walk up to the door and I like to wave at it, just a quick little wave, and I have a smile on my face. I do a quick wave.
I gotta
I
ask
don't,
you something. When you said, because if you told me to park on the street where I run appointments, I would be walking sometimes very far to the house. Are your appointments in neighborhoods where like you can pull up and the house is right there most of the time, or is it like long driveways, or what's your appointments look like?
yeah. So most of them they do have they're in a street. They're on, it's a short driveway usually when I
Little
do it.
neighborhood driveway. Okay.
Yeah, it's a neighborhood driveway. Unless I'm running in the country and there's like a dirt road or gravel road leading up to their house, I'll pull down into that driveway, but I would definitely be out of the way of the other cars or the garage. And so I just intentionally park away from the other cars just in case I'm in the house and somebody needs to leave. It doesn't fail, but there will be someone that needs to leave if you do park, behind the car.
I like to
And
block them in personally. I like to make like, you know what I mean, so they can't get out without me.
yeah,
Uh, but that's more of a joke in my own head. But I like that. No, you do that so that you can be focused with the client while you're in the house and there's no other distractions coming out, right?
yes, yeah.
I like
You know, I do that. I do that for sure. So it's just, I don't want to leave an oil stain. If it's a nice driveway, I don't want to leave an oil stain in the driveway. But
You got that right. You don't want to mess their driveway up. That is 100. If you got a car that's got one good side and one bad side, you put the good side towards the house. And if it leaks or drips something, you definitely don't park in the driveway, right? Um,
that's
and
right.
and sometimes your car just drips stuff. Like I've done that before, and I go, oh man, I gotta get something fixed. Like what happened?
Yeah,
But that's cool. So you wave to the house. I interrupted you, but you do like a little wave to the house, and then you kind of mosey on up there, or you kind of at a fast speed, or what happens from there?
yeah. So I'm walking up just at a brisk pace. I'm not looking around the neighborhood real slow or anything. I'm just focused. I rock straight up to the door and I just give it the friendly knock. I knock first and before ringing a doorbell. I like to knock because like your friends usually will be the ones knocking on your door.
Yeah.
So even if they have a ring on their, one of those camera doorbells, I like to knock. I knock two times first. If they don't answer the first time, I knock again, and then at the last resort, I'll do the doorbell the third
Okay. So
time.
when you say a friendly knock, is it like a do 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 do, or is
That's
that
right.
it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So they're like, who's here? Like, that's what they're thinking on the inside. I
Yeah.
love, I
Yeah.
love that. Okay,
That's
so that's coming up to the door, and then so now that you get to the door, they open it. What happens next? How do you handle that?
yeah. Whenever they open the door, if it's the guy on the sheet on the lead, or if it's the lady on the lead, or if it's none of them. So what if it is the guy on the lead or the lady? I'll say, hey, you must be John. Hey John, I'm here for our 2:30 appointment today. And I just start wiping my feet at the doorstep like I'm coming inside, and I start walking in. You know, and I take my first step in there. I usually will shake his hand and look him in the eye and walk on in the house. And if it's not the person that I feel, if it's not, I'll say, hey, is John here? Yeah, he's here. What's this about? Oh, I'm just here for our appointment this afternoon. That's in 2:30. And then they're like, yeah, let me go get him. So that's what I do. I just shake their hand, look them in the eye, and I start wiping off my feet, and I take the first step in.
Got it. So you're assuming you're going in. You're not wondering if they're going to let you in. Like you've got an appointment. You're there to talk to them. Like you just drove over there and now you're meeting your buddy John and you're coming on in, right? So you're in the house. And then what happens? So you've made it in, all right? Like let's say you've made it in, you've shook his hand. What's your process? I mean, do you try to go to the couch, to the kitchen table? Do you sit and talk and stand up? Do you have stuff with you? Like what's that look like?
Yeah. So what I have in my hand is I'll have like my binder, which has like my presentation in there. Different things that we use in the home that we can go over. And then I have my iPad in there in that binder, and then
Okay.
I just have my lead on top of it. And so I just have that in my hand. My pen is in my pocket. So I just walk on in. I kind of tap my binder a little bit when I'm in there. I say, "Hey, do we have a place that we can sit down and I can go over this, set this down, and set this up for you." Um, I just kind of tap my binder like I have something to show them.
I like that.
Um,
I like that.
yeah, and is there a table we can sit at? I like to say that, a table. I don't want to go to the couch. It's just they get too comfortable and they start leaning back and maybe fall asleep. Maybe if they get too comfortable.
Hate when that happens when you have a client fall asleep on you at an appointment. It's like, I'm here, right? Like I'm sitting right here.
Yeah,
And then you wonder if they've got some other kind of problem. You're like, what else is wrong with you? All
yeah.
right, so you're going to the table, okay? And so if it's John or if it's John and Mary, is there any kind of way that you try to position yourself at the table? You just sit anywhere, everywhere? How do you do that as you get to the table? And I want to say this, and I believe this, you're going for the table, but if they ain't got a table, you're going to find a spot to do business, right? Because that does happen. I'm saying most of people are normal people, but if they ain't got one, you just figure out a way to make it happen, right?
That's right. Yeah. If they don't have no kitchen table, if it's not even there, I don't mind kneeling down next to them and talking to them and showing them what's going on, showing what we need to do. I've just adapting. I've done that. I've done it outside. I've talked to people outside standing up the whole time. Next to their car. I've talked to them
Mhm.
like that. But yeah, adapting like that. And another thing, yeah, when we're sitting down, I like to. I don't want to try to be the dominant person. I don't want to be like, um, I ask them where do they normally sit, and I'll sit. If it's a single person, I'll say, where do you normally sit? I'll let them sit down, and then I'll sit down. They'll be like, yeah, over there is fine. But I definitely, if it's a husband and wife, I have them together on one side of the table, and I have the husband, because I'm you know, gender to gender, same gender to gender, right?
Okay.
Um, I sit next to the man because I'm a guy, and for the women, they would sit next to the woman. So, and
All right.
if the woman tries to sit down next to me, I'll just say, hey, I'm actually, my company makes me sit down next to the guy. So can y'all switch real quick?
You
And
say
so,
that?
yeah, yeah,
That blows my mind. I love that you just say that. That's the greatest part is because you can get away with almost anything as long as you're nice about it. You're like, yeah, my company makes me sit next to the guy. Can you guys switch? Like, I like it's so funny you say that because I'll like stand up. I'm like, there's something that's just messed up for me right now. Can you guys can we switch this? Can you sit there and you sit there? And like I just love that you say the same thing a different way, but with the same attitude of, hey, like, I don't know, like, can you guys just switch this for me? I love that.
yes.
That fires me up. Okay. So you sit down, you got them sitting down, you got them positioned the way you want. How does it go from there? What is that? What's your next steps? How do you start? Do you just go right into it? What do you do?
Yeah, I let the conversation keep going, like it was from when we were walking inside from the door. I'm asking them some things about them, and I let it continue on until it just kind of there's like a quiet moment to where I can talk about what I'm there for, and you know, like I'm asking them like, how long y'all been here? I love
Okay.
asking that question, and just really letting them know I care about them. I'm not there to sell them something. So I had the lead on top of my binder, But I sit that on the table and I just kind of match their body language, and I'm just kind of like sitting back if they're sitting back, or leaning forward if they're leaning forward. And and then once it kind of, the conversation kind of gets to a position where, we kind of run out of stuff to talk about temporarily, I'll just say, okay, yeah. Sometimes they'll ask me, what are you here for? Or I'll go over it. I'll say, yeah. So this is the.
Hey, I gotta back up. I just want to point something out that you said, that like you asked them questions about them. So you asked them like, how long have they lived here? If they're if they're single, do you ask them like if they have any kids or grandkids? Like, it just depends on the person where the conversation goes, is what it sounds like you're saying. But that, how long have you lived here, is a really good opener, easy question for them to answer. And it sounded like you said you're genuinely interested in what they're saying, and you ask more questions based on their response, not just, how long have you lived here? 30 years. Okay, cool. You got any kids? Like, it sounds like you're like, oh, it sounds like you get genuine with them. Like, oh my gosh, 30 years. Where were you from before? Like, what brought you to this area? Like, there's more questions. Am I right on that, Dustin, when you're talking to them?
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking at them with focus. I'm looking them in the eye. Like, I really do care. And so I'm going to know about them. I'm going to know how to help them by listening to them. I've got to know about them to be able to help them.
I like that a lot. I like that. I feel like when you're genuinely interested in the answers, you'll find more questions to ask, and just listen to other calls, and just like, what's the next logical questions? Like, what else can you ask them about? And when you're genuinely interested in them, they're going to be genuinely interested in what you have to say and what you have to offer. If it's just surface level stuff and you just checking off questions to check them off, I feel like you don't really get the response, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next? So you've sat down, you've talked a little bit, you said there's a little bit of silence. How do you transition into what you're going to talk about?
Yeah. So I have the lead out there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm letting them look at it as well. And so what I say is like, hey, John or Mary, yeah, there's really like two main reasons why people fill these out. And the most popular reasons are, number one is they don't have this kind of coverage in place, and they need something in place for them. Or number two is they have some kind of coverage, but they just don't think they have enough. Like, which one is it for you guys? And I just let them talk. I just stop talking and let them go, let them explain. But
so you give them choices, and then you let them talk. You don't say, what made you fill this out? You say, here's some reasons that people fill this out. Which one are you?
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be one or the other. It's like, I don't have coverage, or I have coverage, I just don't think I have enough. And so,
pretty fair.
The good thing about it is, when they do have coverage, they don't think they have enough. That's great. They have life insurance. They're already a buyer of life insurance. I love that.
Yeah.
They already know.
You remember when you were new and they said they had insurance, did it worry you?
Yeah, I did. I had it concerned me a lot. And so it's just, now I know that people add as they go along. The average person buys life insurance 7 times in their life, and I just know they're gonna need to add some more over time.
So if they bought once, that means they're like you. I smile a little bit when they said they got it. I'm like, oh, good job. Like I'm almost in my head going, believer. Like I'm like, this person believes in insurance. I like that about them.
Yeah, they have, and so I congratulate them for having it. And so we basically, those are the main reasons why where I start with, and I know how to direct the conversation from there. And so I'm asking them. Sorry, my throat. I'm asking them. Let me get some water.
You're good. So you're asking them either they don't have it or they do have it, and then based on that is depending on where your conversation goes. You told me some kind of crazy story the other day that they said they had the insurance and they didn't need it, and then something happened.
Yeah, Yeah. So yesterday, actually, this was 2 Saturdays ago. I sat with him, set an appointment. This guy had like a seizure, and so I had to reschedule it for later in the day. He went to the doctor and came home, and I still rescheduled the appointment with this guy. I got to the house, and his friend opened the door for him. It's a lady. She was helping him. She's like, "Is this for life insurance?" And I was like, well, we do a few different things. I'm not sure what he was looking for. We do like final expenses, life insurance, income replacement. Well, he doesn't need life insurance. He's already got it. I said, okay. So yeah, he had life insurance. That's what she said. I showed her the carriers that we use. I said, can you recognize any of these? Like which one of these does he have? And she said it was CFG. I was like, okay. She sounded pretty confident. So I just still sat down with the guy, and she said that he forgets a lot because he has seizures a lot.
Mm.
Um, and so I was like asking him to check his bank statements, things like that, or also go ahead and grab that policy for me. He actually didn't have it because he moved. It was in storage, he said. And I said, it was on a Saturday, so I wasn't able to call the company to verify it, but I did call my my leadership. I called my team. They tell me to, if they're telling you to call them from the home, it's because it's important. They want to help you, and they believe that you're coachable enough to take the time to answer your phone call whenever you call them. Um, and so I called them, and they were like, "Yeah, Dustin, what you should do is just reschedule that appointment for next Tuesday when you're back out there. Just reschedule it for when you're back out there." And so that's what I did. I rescheduled it, and I showed up on Tuesday morning. He's like, "Yeah, I still haven't been able to find it in my bank statement." And so we went ahead and called Columbian Financial Group, and they said, "Yeah, he had a policy about a year ago, but there was a stop payment on it." And he told me before that there was some things going on with his bank, and so um, she said, "Yeah, she said it's been long enough to where you can rewrite the policy." So I went ahead and put some more coverage in place for him. I asked him, "Do you want to go ahead and do this again? Put more coverage in." So we wrote an application for him, and the friend that told me that he already had life insurance, she was like, "How long you been doing this?" And I said, "About 6 years now." And she's like, "How long would it take to set me up on my life insurance?" And so I set her up on the same company. And so normally
That's great.
I wouldn't have walked out of the home with two applications like that from that kind of appointment, but you never
That's
know what
great.
your
Dude,
leaders are
like
going to tell
she told you that they didn't need it at the door. Like you got over there and they said they didn't need it. And then come to find out if you didn't sit down with him, he wouldn't have had nothing because he'd have thought he had it the whole time, you know?
you. Yeah, she would have thought he had it too. And so, yeah, that happens a lot. You
It
know?
blows my mind. And I feel like it's like, I say this all the time, but like if we don't sit down with these people and help them, like who else is going to do it? Like there's no one else that's going to do it. And so you being like, well, we might as well, like, I'm here, like, let's just at least go over it anyway. Like, let's figure it out. And then like, and let's say, even if he did have it, well, now you switch yourself to the servicing agent because you're going to do a better job than anybody else is going to do. Like I'm actually going to call all my clients back and do reviews with them. So like I know I'm going to service them better than anybody else is going to service them. So like if they have one of our companies with another agent, just switch it to you as the agent, and then you have that client, and then all the time by you just servicing them, like you're going to write business that because they didn't think they had it, right? They didn't think they had any coverage, or they thought they had the coverage and they didn't have it, excuse me. And then you're going to write business just like the referral was just by doing the right thing by them, right? Like that only happened because you did the right thing by him, and you just like you could have walked out of there and made no money, Dustin. Like that's the thing that people are like, well, I'm not going to make a sale, why would I do that? Like, no, that's how you make more sales. Like, like you doing that, like, because think about it, like you could have, like you were willing to do that whether you made money or not, because if you service the people, you're going to make the money, like it's going to work out. So like talk more about that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, just going the extra distance for them. I just, your main concern is like what it's going to be like for their family when they die. That's our biggest responsibility, like thinking about their family when they die. And so it's just, like just being that person, because most the people that I sit with, 9 times out of 10, if they have life insurance, they haven't seen their guy. They haven't done a local annual review for their local agent. They haven't. Their agent hasn't ever done one. So
Nobody does reviews, dude. It blows my mind how many people we talk to that they get the policy and never hear from the person ever again. But you and I know they buy 7 times in their lifetime. So we're like, all right, we're going to call you back because you're going to buy. Hopefully it's for me, you know?
yes, that's right. Yeah. So I just let them know the power of having a local agent that's going to really care about them, and not some guy that's over the phone or through the mailbox. Whenever your family calls me when you die, they're going to get a real person on the phone. They're not going to have to call a 1-800 number and press 1 for death or 2 for something else.
Yeah.
They're going to get me, and so that's just go in the extra mile. When they have coverage.
Hey, let me ask you this. So it sounds like if they say they have coverage and they're looking to add more or whatever, you immediately go into kind of more of like a review of what they have and try to figure out where they're at before you move forward. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
like, I want to know how they got the coverage, how long ago, and then was it like through the mail, or did somebody come over here and sit down with you? Or did you have a nurse come out to your house? I want to know, so I know what I'm dealing with. And it's possible that they just got it and it was through the mail, and it's a lot. It's way too much than what they should be paying. And so, hey, go ahead and grab that for me while I'm here. I want to make sure you may not even, you know, you may not even, you may qualify for a discount based on what you already have. You know,
Mhm.
I just, I just have them get it out, and I direct them to go grab it. I say, go ahead and grab that for me. Or if they don't find it, let's go ahead and make a phone call, and we'll get you another policy mailed to you, and let's go find out exactly what it is, so I know how to, what we need to do, how to help you.
I love that. You said something I want to make sure people caught. You may actually qualify for a discount based on what you already have. Like, go ahead and grab that policy. Like, and when you say that, you give them a reason to show you the policy, not, hey, go grab your policy because, I'm going to replace that for you. Like, that would be the weirdest thing in the world to say. It felt weird saying that. But
Yeah.
you're right, dude. Like, I had a client that we did a review on him, and we did the review, and he had just had cancer, and I told him, dude, look, I can write you a policy, but also I can convert this at the same time and get you immediate coverage. Like, it's a really good deal. And you wouldn't believe, Dustin, I got so many referrals from that guy. It was insane because he was like, most people wouldn't have done that. Most people would have just sold the other policy. But when you do that for people, it goes a long way. So let's go. So we talked about if they have a policy, kind of the direction you had and how you get them to get it out. Because here's the thing, and I know that you know this, and I feel like we always need to remember this, is people a lot of times think they have one thing that they don't actually have. And so it's up to us to kind of like make sure what they think they have is what they think they have. Because no insurance, in my opinion, no insurance is bad insurance unless you think it's something other than it is. Then it's not
Mm.
good because you just don't know, right? Like, I don't think term's bad. I don't think whole life's bad. I don't think ULs are bad, accidental. I don't think any of it bad unless like you don't know what it is and you think it's going to do something different than what it does, right? And that's all we're doing is making sure for them that it's going to do whatever it is they want it to do, right? And so what do you do? So let's say, well, hey, like I don't have any coverage, or I was just looking to get more. Like, what are some of the things that you do in the home to get them to want to purchase from you? Like, is there certain things that you say or certain things that you go through?
Yes. Yeah. I like to, um, it's just make them actually think about things, by asking them questions about their life and what they've experienced. So I like to ask them, like, so have you ever thought about, would you rather have a traditional burial, John, or would you rather have a traditional burial, Paul, or would it be more like a cremation? Have you thought about that already? They're like, yeah, I would rather have a cremation. Okay, yeah, and you know is that, is that something like is that something your mom and dad did, or how, what made you want to be cremated? Just kind of ask them
Hmm.
where they came up with that. Sometimes they're like, oh, it's a lot cheaper, or everybody has a different reason.
Right.
And so I'm just like, yeah, half the people I sit with do cremation and half of them do burial. So it's really up to you. Um, and I like that. I asked them as well. I say, how much do you think cremation costs these days? I like to ask them their opinion on it. And some of them will tell you how much it's going to cost, and some of them don't know yet. But
Right.
whatever they say, I'm just like, yeah, that's about right. That's right. I'll go with what they tell me. Like, oh, it's about $2,000 to $3,000. So, you know, and I agree with what they say. And when I'm showing them the prices, I know I'm not going to, most likely, unless when we get into other questions, I'm not going to be showing them something like 20,000, 25,000. And so, but I like to ask them, do you mind if I ask you like how you know that? And I ask them about that and see maybe how they knew that. Maybe they had a death in the family recently, or, and I also say, are your mom and dad still with us? I ask them about their mom and dad. And I'm just saying, like, did you know what your mom and dad's wishes were? Just so they can think about what they've experienced in their life. If they knew their mom and dad's wishes, maybe their mom and dad didn't have coverage, or maybe they did have coverage, but whatever it was, it left an impression on them, you know. And when you're just asking them these questions, they're really thinking about it. Like, man, my kids are gonna have to go through the same thing, and so it's making them think like, I really got to get this done, you
Wow.
know.
I love that. I love that, man. Dude, I like where you drive depth. You're driving depth and getting them to think about what's going to happen when they die. Like you're getting them to visualize it in their head without telling them when they die, it's going to be this. You're not telling them, you're asking them questions to get them to tell you like what it's going to be like when they die. And dude, one thing I learned, and I learned it somewhat recently, and probably I say recently, but in the last year or so, is like when I'm talking to someone, they say cremation, it's this much. I say, yeah, and we both know that the costs aren't going down, right? It's always just going to be more and more expensive as time goes on, right? And so I'm building value not in just the amount that they said, but in the amounts above that, right? So what they said is okay to get the coverage, but I'm also trying to build value above that. And it's like, okay, yeah. And so what we know is like, costs are just going to go up over time, right? Like they're not going to go down. It's going to get not going to get less cheaper. And they always go, oh yeah, that's right. Everything's getting expensive. And I'm guessing like you want to make sure when you go, like, that's covered, and then whatever other bills you might have, right? Like whatever, because there's always extra bills, right? Everything always costs more. So I'm building value in where they're at, right? Because when we go to show the numbers, I'm like, okay, so the most important thing is that you feel good about it every single month, and that it fits your needs and budget, and then it provides some kind of protection for your family, so that if they get $3,000 or $5,000 worth of coverage, that's okay. But you also build enough value to where if they buy 10 or 15 or 20,000 on a cremation plan, like that's okay too, because they know there's always going to be more bills, right? So we're always trying to build value. Like when people get great at this business, they can build value in $2,000 of insurance or 20,000 or 200,000. It's being able to build that value. And so you ask questions, Dustin, about cremation or casket, and then like, is there any other questions? Do you ever ask about like who's going to be paying for the funeral when they die, or like who's in charge or anything like that?
Yeah, so yeah, yeah, I like to know that. So like, when I like to ask them like whenever your mom and dad, if they say they were gone, they're not with us anymore, I'll say, were you the one that was helping with that, or was that like a sibling of yours? And sometimes they'll say it was a sibling, sometimes it'll be them. But so what I was wondering too is, Paul, like when you were to die yesterday, today, like who's that person in your family you think would take care of all, everything for you? Who's that person, do you think? And they'll think of somebody. You know?
Yeah, they're going to give you the person they're protecting right then and there.
Yeah, yeah. So they're, you know, yeah. I just want to, I also ask them as well when they tell me that person. I'll say, hey, do they know what your wishes are as well? Like you knew for your parents. Like Do they know what you want? Because that's one of the biggest things, Paul, is like whenever I'm acting like you're the client right now,
I got you.
um, but like that's one of the biggest things is, you know, we might know what we want, and that's good to start with, but it's really important when we're not here is so our family knows what we want as well, you know, because they're the ones that are going to make it happen for us, you know. But and then they'll tell me, you know, they'll talk to me about if they knew it, they talked to it with their family or not.
And then they'll
So
tell you like, I really need to get around to that, or like, you're right, I really need to do that. When they give you the you're right, like
mm,
when they give you the I agree, that's when you know it's just a matter of which one are they going to buy. It's not a matter of if. When you get this far into the conversation, I don't think you're thinking if they're going to buy. It's just which one's going to fit their budget, right?
yes, that's right.
So it sounds like you, and in this process, as you're talking to them, like you're asking them, you'll go through and ask them, all right, like here's where I figure out what you qualify for. And you're asking them medical stuff like, cancers, heart attacks. I love just asking, so have you ever had cancer, heart attacks, strokes, kidney, liver problems, any kind of breathing disorders, any inhalers at all? Because people won't have any breathing disorders, but they got 3 inhalers. It blows my mind. So I'm always like, any inhalers, oxygen, criminal history, bad driving, anything crazy. And then if they're like 72 and they're like, nothing, I'm like, you're not on nothing, like no meds at all. What are you taking medications for? Like, I want to just get in there and try to figure out what they got going on. Do you do
Yes,
something similar to that when you're asking all those questions?
yes, yes. I start naming off all the major things and also things that I know people might forget. You know, like yeah, like the oxygen. So I'll say, yeah, anything. So I let them know, like, so the company is, what my job is to go over your eligibility, Josh or Paul, and see what we can get you qualified for. And what these companies are looking at, Paul, is they're just going to look at our prescription history, just to see what we're taking. And that's going to help determine our eligibility for what we can get approved for, you know. And I let them know. So, like, anything major that you've had, anything major like heart attack, stroke, cancer, diabetes, liver, kidney disease, COPD, oxygen, anything like that you can think of, and they might say no, and then I want to know, like, there's got to be something, So I'm like, so you're not taking anything, you're not like anything, maybe just high blood pressure, things like that, and then they'll be like, yeah, I take blood pressure, I have diabetes, I do this, and they'll start coming at it from the other way, you know. But I start with the hard stuff first, and then I'll go to the other side of like the easy stuff. I'm like, so you take nothing, or you take just something for blood pressure, you know. I try to get them started on what they're taking, and that's how I go about those questions, like just like you did, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Yeah, it's almost like you start with here's the major stuff and then you push. Because when they say they got nothing wrong with them, like, let's be real. Most people over the age of 50 are on some kind of medication. Now, they're out there that they aren't, but that's the exception. Most people are taking something. And I don't know about you, but I'm with you. Like, we work with a bunch of different companies, and all my job is to do is shop around and figure out what you qualify for, most importantly, and then get you the best rate based on that. Like, and I urge the people that are listening to this call to get to an event, get on the phone with the people that you see at the top of the leaderboards and say, hey, what questions do you ask in the home? What are some of the questions that you have? Because I hear, Dustin, everything I'm hearing from you is stuff that you've learned somewhere. You didn't know this 6 years ago. So you've listened to calls like this. You've listened to trainings. You've gone to in-person trainings. You've asked questions, and now you've developed your line of questioning based on the questions that you've asked in the situation that you've been in. And because you've heard so many trainings and you've asked so many questions, sometimes you'll ask a question you don't normally ask because it's in here. You got questions in there that aren't in the normal repertoire, but I like that word, repertoire. But you've got a normal repertoire, right? Like, you've got a normal line of questioning that you go through every time you talk to a client. And it sounded like to me, most of what you said is questions. It doesn't sound like you're doing a whole lot of talking. You're doing a lot of questions.
Yes, yeah. I think myself more of a, like a counselor more instead of a salesman in the home. But I think asking questions, you know, I think asking questions is the most important thing in the home.
Yeah.
Instead of telling them everything, I like to ask them things. Um, and so, um, just, yeah, like a man convinced of his will is of the same opinion still. And so I like to get them to think of the answer,
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. And honestly, if you can, I learned real early that if you can get them to verbalize to you, like verbally, not like you see why they need it, but they verbally tell you why they need it, the deal is over. Like they've already told you, they've convinced themselves by telling you why they need it, right? Like they're telling you, like when you're like, well, I want the cremation, and who's the person that would be in charge? Well, this person, and you just want to make sure they don't have a bill, right? Like, yeah, like, I just want to make sure they're not burdened with that bill. Like you're getting them to say the stuff out loud. And so what do you do? Like I don't want to get too crazy into the rest of the point, but I feel like we're at the numbers part almost, right? Like we're right here at the numbers. So what do you say before you present the numbers to them? And then what do you say before you show them the numbers? And then how do you like actually present the numbers to them?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm doing is after I ask the health questions, um, I will, do a phone call with one of my leaders that I've let know that that I'm going to be going into a home. Or if I can't get in touch with one of them, I'm going to call. There's the agent hotline. That's for people that are in the
Oh
home
yeah.
only.
Yeah,
We've
hey, let me tell you, if you, hey, pen and paper, if you don't have one yet, the agent hotline, and you can text someone and ask, but the agent hotline for in home, if you're in a home and you can't get a hold of somebody, you should have people to call and let them know you're going into a home. But if you can't get a hold of somebody, the number to call is 833-773-7770. I'm going to say it one more time, 833-773-7770. And if you call that number, it rings a bunch of people, but have somebody to call. And then if you can't get a hold of the person that you're working with or the people that you're working with, call that number. Somebody will pick up and help you. But it's for in-home only. Don't be calling it just to call it, because then it'll be like, the what's the wolf, the boy that cried wolf, you know what I mean? Nobody will pick it up. But all right, so go back. So you call, you get some coaching to make sure you're showing them the right thing, and then what do you do to show the numbers?
Yes. So I usually will have the lead. I'll flip the lead over, and I'm thinking of three different numbers that I can show them. I'm going to write down three different amounts, but I like to say to them, like, I don't want them to feel pressured to pick the highest one, or really don't want them to feel pressured at all when I'm and making this decision, because want them to feel comfortable with it. And I like to say, Paul, it's always easier to, I let them know I do annual reviews with all my clients every year, and it's always easier, Paul, to add more over time as you go than to try to start with too much in the beginning and try to take away later. So what I'm just gonna go over these with you, and I write down the numbers, and I explain them to them, and I'll say, so which one of these do you feel most comfortable with to try to get approved for? And then I just lean back, and I'll stop talking at that point, and I'll just let them think or talk or do whatever they need to do until they give me like an answer.
So I'm writing out what I would write at the top of the paper. So I know you write something down, but I learned this from a top producer: to protect my family when I die. Is I write that right at the top of the paper, man. And I'm telling you what, it works so good. And then I don't know how you put them, but I'll have that at the top, and then I'll have like $10,000, and I'll write it out. This is with a mouse, so I just want people to see what you're saying. So $10,000 is only 72 bucks a month. 15,000. I'm making up these numbers. Don't quote me on these quotes. $15,000, and they would be prettier on a piece of paper than this. Is only 110 bucks a month, and then $20,000 is only um, 150 bucks a month, right? And so do you do something similar to this where you write out three options? You might have a little different format, but do you do something similar to what this looks like?
Yes. Yeah. It's really simple. I just write out. Yeah. I write it out very, very similar to that.
And if it was me and I had two people, I would put like Bob here, and then I would draw a line, and I would put Mary's right here. And then I
Yes.
would do the same thing right here. And I would say something like, so for you, Bob, to get $10,000 worth of coverage, it's only $72 a month. And for you, Mary, it's only $83 a month. And then for you, Bob, if you wanted to do $15,000 worth of coverage, it's only 110 a month. And then for you, Mary, it's only 123 a month. And then if you guys want to do $20,000 worth of coverage, it's only 150 a month for you, Bob, and then it's only 172 a month for you, Mary. Now we can go up, we can go down, or we can go in between any of these numbers. But which one of these do you feel like fits your needs and budget the best?
Mm.
That's my close, and then you'd be quiet at that point, right? So what you say something close to that? What do you say when you wrap this up?
Yeah. So there's two things that I've said, and most of the time what I'm saying is, which one of these do you feel most comfortable with based on your need and your budget to try to get approved for? So
Okay.
I'll say it like that. That's the most common one that I've said. Another one that I've said so far: are we in range with your need and your budget based on these?
So you explain the numbers. $10,000 for the coverage is only this much. 15 only this, and then you ask that question, and you're quiet, right?
Yeah, I'm quiet.
And then I don't know about you, unless they just straight up say no. Like they might say, well, Paul, I can't afford any of these, or Dustin, I can't afford any of these. Well, we can always go down. I said, okay, well, let me just show you a couple other options. Here's 5,000, 7,000, and 9,000. And I'll show them three more options at that point. Because you can always go down. It's hard. You can't bump up, right? I learned that. I used to show numbers where my bottom number would be like 30 or $40 a month. And then like my top number would be 100. I started showing more premium. I started writing higher premium because you can always bring it down. But once they do it, how do you move? What do you do to move into the application? Because this is where the rubber meets the road right here.
Yes. Yeah. So they pick one. They'll say, let's do the 10,000. I'll say, okay. And, I circle the number on the quote sheet. I circle it and I'll say, okay. So, what we're going to do, I'm just going to, I asked them basically, you said your beneficiary is your son, John. Is that right? And they're like, yeah. And so I'll get them back to the reason why they're doing it. And I'll just start filling out the application. And so I like to bring them back to that. And I'll say, can you do me a favor? Just go grab your driver's license. I'll just have them get their driver's license so I can write all their information down correctly.
I love that. So it's you show them the numbers, they pick one, or they're like, well, I'm not sure or whatever, but they're leaning towards it, right? You just start filling out the paperwork. Now, who did you say your beneficiary was? That would be John, your son, John, right? Okay. Jonathan. Okay. Jonathan's who the money's going to go to. And then it's like, okay. And then your first name is it John or is it Jonathan? It's Jonathan. Okay. Well, actually, matter of fact, go grab your driver's license so I can verify your identity, make sure I get everything spelled correctly on here. You don't do anything like, you're not like, all right, well, now what we're going to do is fill out an application. You're like, you just start filling it out, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Until they tell you not to. Which
That's
most
right.
of the time they don't. And honestly, like I feel like you can get and when you start getting them to give you information and they just start giving it to you, you just work through it like it's just a normal thing, right? And when you're going through, is there anything that you do that's interesting to get them to like give you their social or their banking? Because I know those are two things that sometimes hold people up, as they're going through there. Is there something that you do interesting around those parts?
Yeah. So I like to get them in the habit of answering questions for me, just a normal pattern of answering questions about them. So I'm like, so I just want to make sure I spelled your name correct. How do you spell your name? And then, do you have a middle initial or middle name? No. Okay. And then your date of birth, just confirm, is this right? Yeah. And then you have your email on here. Is that the right one? Yep. Okay. And what's your social? And then I'm just looking down, checking things off, and I'll say, okay, John, what's your social? And then they just tell me it. I'm just writing it down. Just if you don't make it a big deal, they won't make it a big deal. But just, I don't come right off the bat and say, what's your social? Or I don't say, well, hey, what's your social security number? I don't look them in the eye and say, what's your social security number? I'm looking down. I say, what's your social? It's just clear enough to where they can hear it, so I don't have to keep repeating it. But
well, I love that. I love that. So it's just matter of fact, what's your social? I'm weird. I like to ask their phone number, then their social. So they give me a number, then a number. When I get to the banking piece of it, I say, okay, so now once they approve this, they're going to set it up on like an automatic payment. Did you want that on a certain day of the month, or what day of the month did you want that on? Or just whatever day they approve it on. And they'll tell me like, oh, it doesn't matter, or I want it on this day of the month. Okay, cool. And then what bank did you want that to come out of? Like, I just assume that, like, what bank did you want that to come out of? Wow, come out of this bank. Okay, cool. And then what's the actual like account number, account routing for that? And then they give you, if you're just matter of fact with it, they'll just give you the information, right? And so as long as, like you said it, Dustin, as long as you don't make a big deal out of it, they're not going to make a big deal out of it at all, right? Now,
yes.
I know I felt weird at first asking for that information. If you could just think that it's not weird and get that thought out of your head, you'll get less objections with it, right? And just know that it's just part of the process. Like, anytime anyone's ever gotten any insurance, anytime in their life, signed up for any job, done anything like that, they give out that information. You just have to make it like it's not a big deal. Just because you don't want to give out your information doesn't mean they don't, right? You're the trusted person. And so, dude, we've rocked on. We've crushed this call. I know you got appointments and stuff to go to, but I do want to say, like, there is more steps after this. Like, this is just getting into the application. There's referrals. There's the cool down. There's making sure they have your contact, the new business report. We're gonna get into that on some other calls. But Dustin, dude, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better person to go over this with, man. Like, you absolutely crushed it with all the topics and stuff that you talked about today. Is there anything else you want to add for anyone else that's out there that you just want to say, hey, this too?
Yeah. I wouldn't have those people to sit with if it wasn't for like being accountable to your team, like to your leadership. I tried doing that, with being accountable with your numbers to your spouse. It doesn't work as well, but for me, it didn't work as well. But being accountable to like the leaders here, like that are my team, just being on the phone call, because I know I'm gonna send them my numbers throughout the week, and I don't want them, I want to be proud of the numbers that I send them. I want to make sure I'm staying consistent with those numbers each week, and so that's what drives me to get up every week and just keep doing the same amount of numbers every week. And that's if it wasn't, if it was just but me by myself, I would get distracted, and I wouldn't, it'd be too inconsistent. So just be accountable to somebody.
I appreciate that, man. Me and you are a lot alike in that aspect. I tell other people I'm gonna do it, I'm way more likely. So it's kind of like tricking yourself into doing it, man. So I know you're out in the field today. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on the call with all of us and pour out all your tips and tricks that you have, man. And just keep doing it, man. Let's just keep doing it. We're going to look back a couple months from now, a couple of years from now, and go, dang, like, look at all this stuff that we're able to do. And that's it, guys. We'll catch you guys more on the next call. Dustin, I'll catch up with you later. You're sideways again. You're out there crushing it, dude. I love it. I'll catch up with you, man. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.